Very amateurish effort. As I said earlier, I wrote it more because I wanted to put on record what we, the Goans, and Indians in general did for Kenya and East Africa. That was my point in writing the book. Also wanted to leave something for posterity. My children were keen that I should tell the story because we should tell them, oh, this is how we lived. Animals, you know, elephants raiding our pots and all that sort of thing. And they said, Dad, why don't you write? And in those days I was in a very high, rather pressurizing job. And I couldn't, you know, I write for magazines and things like that. But then one day I sat and wrote about 10 pages. But I said, who's going to type this for me? And there's another Goan lady from Saligaon, as it happens to be, Linda D'Souza. She said to me, look, I haven't got work. And, you know, she's secretary to her boss. I said, do you mind knocking out these? When I saw them in fair print, I was encouraged to write, you know, and you know, those of you who are writers know, it just flows like, you know. So, and the other thing why I wanted to hasten this is, I wanted the foreword to be given to me by someone who knew East Africa. And the one man who did was the former governor of Tanganyika and one time acting governor of Kenya, Sir Richard Turnbull, who's given me the foreword to this book. I worked with him as well as a junior Karani. Karani means a clerk. You know, I started off in that base position and worked my way up.
And Bwana?
Bwana, in the colonial times, everyone was addressed as a Bwana, like Sir, you know, Bwana. And almost to the degree that people insisted you call me Bwana. I know there's a film, I think, called me Bwana some years. So that's why I thought I better title it as Bwana Karani. What else? Also, I wanted to put on record how I came up, you know, despite my being orphaned at an early age, how I succeeded, went through life, you know, despite the highs and lows, as it were. And it's not all honey and highballs in this. You know, we've had our ups and downs. Even in married life, we lost our son after 2 years. Our son was born with a congenital heart, and I was in that part of Africa, which I love, on the Abyssinian-Ethiopian border. No medical facilities at all. If you were ill, you were flown to Nairobi. So this son of ours used to be flown on several occasions with my wife on an oxygen tent, you know. So it was terrible. So we lost him, you know. That was a tragedy anyway. And as I said earlier, I love the people of East Africa. I love the tribes. And I think with hindsight, I wish I'd taken anthropology or sociology. You know, I love studying people's backgrounds, their customs. In fact, there's so much of ammunition, material for that here in Goa, I think, you know. But unfortunately, I passed that stage now. But that's about all, I think. I don't know.
Did you publish it yourself?
This was self-published, yeah.
And it was so costly in those days because...
It cost me £5,000.
How many copies?
In those days?
No, I had to pay for all the copies that you know.
No, he's asking how many copies?
1,000 copies. But any copies I wanted, say, to order, say I wanted 200, I had to pay at a reduced price. I had to buy the copies off the publisher. And they assured me, I must tell you this, being an, what shall I say, unseasoned author, I had to go by adverts. I saw an advert on the Daily Telegraph for this. I've never met the publisher. All done on the telephone. I'm in Surrey and he's in Devon, miles away. We're just talking to each other. So I had to trust the man to do a good job, you know. And I used to send him, you know, manuscripts. The first thing I used to send manuscripts to Sir Richard Turnbull in Scotland from Surrey. He used to look at it. He was critical in certain respects, but I wanted him not to correct things that I said. You know, if I said, the colonials did this, I wanted that to stand. If he corrected me, I would say, forget about the forward. I wanted the truth to stand, you see. And fortunately, he's, you know, he's not done anything about that. The one thing I regret, because I wrote this in such haste, I omitted a poem which I dedicated to the son that we lost. And if you don't mind, I would like to read it out to you all here.
Yeah,
because, you know, if ever I do a reprint in Goa through print, then I shall include this and several other photographs which I still have. I'll just, can I just, I think I've got this somewhere. Just there. Well, this is a farewell to our darling Conrad was his name. October the 10th, 1956 was a day of joy. For to us was born our second boy, of angelic beauty, but frail physique, yet destined to live in this world so bleak. For months past birth we ne'er knew that his days with us would be so few, until one day our hearts were torn when his troubles to us a specialist made known. A congenital heart was what he had, the thought of which could drive one mad. But bravely and patiently he struggled through, hoping that someday he'd be fit anew. Despite his health, he traveled afar by plane and truck and motor car. Oft a spell in hospital he spent, striving hard for life under an oxygen tent. From the NFD by the way, the Northern Frontier District of Kenya bordering on Ethiopia, that's what I said. From the NFD to Kisii, another town, with us he came, not knowing that here he'd always remain. The weather didn't suit, but he still kept ensured that Mum and Dad and Clyde, that's our eldest son, kept cheered. A sad day it was when on January the 3rd, 1958, for the last time his sweet voice we heard. He breathed his last, oh so suddenly. For you, darling Conrad, will mourn unceasingly. That's it. And that's Conrad here. That's Conrad, and that's our eldest son, who is now in his 50s. And that's one of the frontier tribes, Ayahs, you know, on the Ethiopian border.
Favorites of the gods die young, as they say.
Oh yeah, but my regret is, if heart surgery were advanced as it is today,
I see.
you would have lived.
Congenital heart is it's a condition you can cope with.
Oh yeah, they could operate on today, you know. That's that. That's my piece.
How's the sale of the book done so far?
It's done well, you know. I've got about 40 copies left.
Only? Oh.
Yeah.
And it's all over on the net and
It's
visible.
on in fact, I don't know if you'll
Google.
log into Amazon anytime. The last time I logged in, my book was going for $87.
I see.
And they've got 2 copies now for £47. If you go, I don't want you to buy it at £47, because the book was priced at £3.95. My one regret, I must say this openly to you all now, at that time when I published this, there were about 15,000 Goans in London. And I said to myself, if 1/3 of the number bought my book for £3.95, which I think less than a peg of scotch or something, you know. But sadly, I was not supported by my own community.
Goans don't read, as you say.
Yeah, they're not readers.
That's the story of our life.
That's the story of our life, yeah. So,
No, but
and
I think there is a hack to it, and there is a way to cure that.
yeah.
You know, with due respect.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example for some convention or something in Toronto.
Oh yeah.
Pen and Town. He kept copies of Dominic's Goa and some other Goa related books.
Yeah.
And the next stall had sausages and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that was sold out in half an
Straight
hour.
away, yeah.
And this was maybe 2 books were sold in the whole
Yeah.
day, like, you know, so.
Maybe I should have called this sausages and sort for them or something.
If you don't mind me
Next
asking,
edition.
in post-colonial times, isn't it a bit of a problem to take the position you're taking, because you're saying like we contributed there, whereas today it might be seen as we are part of the exploiters in
What,
in East
the
Africa.
Africanized?
Yeah.
No, if you read some of the reviews in that book I brought, written by Africans,
I see.
they really they're proud. They praise me for writing this, you know, because mind you, there was a 3-tier system: the whites at the top, Indians in the middle, and the poor Africans at the bottom, you know. But that happened, and now we're getting a backlash in Kenya and all the East African countries.
So you've not glamorized or glossed over that reality in that
Not
sense.
at all, not at all, not at all.
This is happening in South Africa. The Indian community is kind of identified with the white, so they did have a little bit, once the apartheid went off. That's what my classmates from South Africa used to
And that's
say.
South Africa maybe. I'm
Yeah.
talking of East Africa.
So the
It's
South-
were different. It's different in East Africa.
They were saying that that balance did create a sort of. Initially, the Indians tend to identify with the white.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not so much race as
colonial
economics, no, in that sense. Economics, I mean, all of us would like the better things in life. We would know where our bread is buttered.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it.
Probably in the medical college, we are not aware of the intricacies. We only see
Yeah,
the cause
yeah,
effect
yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
But you know, we went along with it. You know, when I look back now, we too are guilty. When I say I'm speaking personally here, guilty of practicing racial discrimination. We discriminate against the Africans.